Well, hello, beautiful people, and welcome to another live. If you're watching it live, it's Tuesday, December 2nd, and here on Pacific time, it is noon. And I really felt moved to do this live today because it's around the holidays. Thanksgiving in the US just passed if you celebrate it. And if you're celebrating Christmas or Kwanzaa or Hanukkah, December is a busy month. So I wanted to spend some time on this concept of emotional resonance and using that as a tool to not feel lonely during this time, even though it's so busy. It seems paradoxical, right? So, whether you're watching this recorded or live, I want you to just take a couple of seconds to kind of regain your focus. If you're like me, you've done a lot today already. I know I have. And so you could probably use a couple minutes to just ground and focus. So take a deep breath and exhale. Kind of listen to all the noises around you, whatever's going on, other people talking in other offices, or maybe your kids are screaming, or maybe you hear the lawnmower outside. Just capture that noise and let it go. Just for a little bit of time while we're here together. Take another deep breath and let that go. And maybe put in the chat why you're here. What about this topic of loneliness and emotional resonance in the holidays piqued your curiosity? And let me know where you're from as well. I can't see who's there, but I would love to hear from you in the chat. And while we're at it, let's take one more deep breath and let go. Letting go whatever you're working on just a minute ago. It'll all be there for you. Right when we're done, you can go right back to it and actually do it a lot better. So, good job. The holidays can seem very busy for us. And it almost carries into January, actually, that feeling of being busy, 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 and into January. So, this isn't YouTube Live just for December. It's also something for January. But first of all, I want to say, well, hello there, Katy fan. Need a break in this day. Perfect timing. Hello there, Barry. I want to say happy National Mutt Day, as well as Happy Giving Tuesday. It's a beautiful day to honor giving to yourself and to giving to donations and charities. It's not about the money, it's about recognizing that giving is the same thing as receiving. So I did this live in particular today because it's Giving Tuesday and National Mutt Day. And what those two things mean is they factor into the three tools I want you to use 5 minutes a day to raise your emotional resonance and make peace with loneliness, whatever it means to you. We'll get there. I promise you we'll get there. So I just wanted to say that. And at the end, I'm going to give you a short and fun quiz. And one person who's on the live and answers the quiz correctly first is going to win a free mini breakthrough session with me. And if you know anything about the breakthrough session world, breakthrough sessions cost upwards of $10,000. So a mini version is still incredibly valuable. So stay tuned if you want to learn more about breakthrough sessions. I'll put a link in the chat for you. So here's the deal. Even the most driven people who never experience loneliness, quote unquote, need moments of quiet to really realign with what truly matters. That said, loneliness is a real thing, you guys, especially around the holidays. As I explain in my latest book, Emotional Resonance Factor, when we are lonely, we're really craving that connection. Okay. That connection. And so that's where we want to start today. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Katy Goshtosky. Before we get there, I'm a former investment management lawyer. I gave up that great career, 17, 18 years ago now. Sometimes I lose count, which is fabulous. And I've been running a coaching and consulting company. Truly, it's about people sitting into their fabulousness and really owning their gifts and who they are, resonating that. turning that into a brand that sells them well, that allows people to show up in their world easily and effortlessly, and then monetizing that however they do that. So CEOs, Fortune 500 companies, or maybe it's women in business, and anyone can benefit from this work because we're all human, and the human factor is what I think we miss a lot of time. So this work expands beyond December into January, because I kind of look at January like, if you've ever been involved in a wedding, your own or somebody else's, or heaven forbid, a funeral, there's this rush of activity, right? Everything happens. So that's how December feels to a lot of us. There's all this stuff going on, and introverts never get to be alone because it's so busy. And extroverts are, I'm an extrovert. I often feel overwhelmed too in December. And that's what it's like to be in that wedding planning mode and the day of the wedding, and all these people come into town. Or if it's a funeral, heaven forbid, a lot of people come into town, and you don't ever get to experience that loneliness until the wedding is over, the funeral's over, December's over, and it's January, and you're like, oh gosh, now what do I do with myself? Like there's the void all of a sudden, like this vacuum effect that happens when everything settles down. However, the buildup starts during the wedding, during the funeral, during the December holidays. And that feeling of loneliness is still there, you guys. We're just kind of shushing it down. We're ignoring it. And then it's coming back more and more powerfully, because we know how this works, right? What you ignore just keeps persisting and persisting, because that's the universe's way of telling you, hey, something around here needs to be healed. So let's do some healing or some growing, however way you want to look at it. But ignoring it is only going to make it worse. It's not going to create more comfort for you. And the discomfort, though, is how you grow. So if you're here, it means you're brave enough to look at this. Congratulations. So here's where I want to start. I want to start with the actual definition of loneliness. So here's how it is defined in the dictionary. Remember that thing called the dictionary? Online, dictionary.com, wherever you go. Loneliness is defined as, quote, an emotional state resulting from a perceived gap between one's desired and one's actual social connections. Okay, so I'm going to break that down, that definition, but here's what happens when we keep staying in this not alone, but loneliness feeling based on that definition. Left unchecked, loneliness has real health consequences for us all. And it can keep us from our life and our business and our success and our happiness. So depression, mental health challenges, cognitive impairment, dementia, personality disorders, and of course, the worst part of this, suicide. So being in the legal field, I have known several lawyers, too many, who have committed suicide for not apparent reasons to the rest of us, but very real for them, obviously, to take their life. And I bet most of those were somehow related to this concept of being lonely. So let's break it down. The first part of the definition is an emotional state. So anytime we choose to feel lonely, remember, I picked those words very carefully. We're choosing that, even though it doesn't feel like we have a choice. I know, I have been there, and I still go there, which is why this topic is really relevant. I have by no means mastered all of this. I'm a human just like you, and I'm learning and growing. So anytime we choose to feel lonely, we're experiencing an emotion, okay? That emotion, I call them negative emotions, which is what we work through in breakthrough sessions, can be anything like anger, sadness, fear, guilt, shame, or hurt. Okay, those are the 6 negative emotions as I know them, okay? Just the other day, somebody was writing an article for an ABA article for something that I'm an issue editor for the American Bar Association. And they were talking about grief. And I said, well, Grief isn't so much an emotion, but the attached emotion to grief is oftentimes sadness. Okay. So perhaps during the holidays, you're missing someone and you feel that grief. And that is about a sense of loss. And that's really sadness that you're feeling. Okay. So that's what an emotional state is. So let's look at the second part of that definition. An emotional state resulting from a perceived gap. Okay, so let's talk about the word perceived. Your perception, which you perceive out in the world, is your reality. What does that mean? It means whatever you perceive going on is what you're really seeing out there for yourself. It's real for you, even though it might not be real for the person who's sitting next to you, who's seeing the same thing, but perceiving something very different. What you choose to see is real for you in that moment, including any negative emotions and any gaps between what you want and what you have, right? So you want a big family for the holidays and they're not there. So that's a gap we experience. You want a lot of money or a great new job, and what you have is not that. You're not making enough for yourself. You don't feel like you are, or you don't have that title. There's a gap there, right? So whatever you're perceiving is what you're experiencing out in the world. So this also includes interactions with clients, colleagues, family members, anyone in your world. So that's what perception is. Okay. So let's look at the third part of the definition now. So the definition was loneliness is an emotional state resulting from a perceived gap between one's desired and actual social connections. So connections is the third part of the definition to look at. Connection is that feeling of being seen and heard and understood and then valued by your world. By who? By whoever. The woman at the grocery store, the woman at the department store wrapping up your gift for someone, the tech guy who is trying to fix your computer problem, anyone out there, the guy who takes your seat on the trolley or the public transportation. So that is the definition of loneliness. Okay, so now that we know the definition, let's look at how we can use it as a tool 5 minutes a day to increase your emotional resonance. Because remember, when you emotionally resonate, you're able then, as I say in my book, to attract people, opportunities, relationships to you with ease. You don't have to do anything. You just show up, and that resonance, which is the frequency like music, brings people to you. Okay, so that's the goal. But first, we got to start with this person right here. So I use the acronym JOY, Joy. It's very fitting during the holidays, right? So let's start with the J. So this is your tool to raise your emotional resonance in 5 minutes a day in order to make peace with whatever emotions of loneliness you're feeling. Anger, sadness, guilt, shame, hurt, fear. Okay? All right. And it's very normal, and we're human. So the J is linked to the first part of the definition, which is to be in charge of your emotional state, because that's how the definition of loneliness works. It's about your emotional state. So the J is just sit and feel. Just sit and feel is the first part of what you do in that 5 minutes a day. So what are you doing in that 5 minutes a day? All I'm asking you to do is reflect and build up your muscle associated with being more emotionally intelligent. Why? Emotionally intelligent people make more money. They have an easier life. They're happier. They're healthier, and they sleep better at night. We all want that, right? If you don't, I got to wonder why. Either you're lying to yourself or you've given up. Neither one is something that I'm going to accept for you, because you deserve better, because you matter. Okay. So what do I want you to do with the J? Just sit and feel. So here's the good news. Emotions are just data. They come and they go. They're just there to tell you what's going on in your body, in your heart. And they're also giving you data for how you're showing up in the world. All right. Emotions are energy in motion, emotion, right? I'm sure you've heard that before. If you haven't, there you go. They're transitory and they're going to pass, even those negative emotions. So, how? Most of us tend to escape those negative emotions. We eat. Oh, I know that used to be my favorite thing to do. Eating, shopping. I like that too. People drink, people have sex, people go to excess. And I explain that in my book as well, because we're trying to avoid those negative emotions because it feels so bad to have that memory and that recall. I have a client right now who's extremely, extremely wealthy, and he's really grappling with his legacy, building $1 billion empire and having it be left in a way that leaves him with a legacy that meant his life mattered. And for him, the hardest part wasn't making that $1 billion. It's working with me right now on feeling those negative emotions and really sitting with that knowledge of, well, pardon my language, well, shoot, what if this isn't working out? What if my children aren't going to do something good with the money? They're already fighting over it. What happens to what I've built? And how can I feel fulfilled around it? And how can I keep it going? Because we're all part of this hedonic system, right? The more you have, the more used to it you get. I believe it's called hedonic adaptation. I can't remember who said that. Maybe it's Joe Dispenza. But the more you have, the more common it gets. Like you buy a new pair of shoes and at first it feels great. And then a couple of days later, it's like not doing it for you anymore. Hedonic adaptation. So we're pushing away the negative emotions, but they keep coming back. And the good feeling we got from the pair of shoes or that extra drink or that extra piece of chocolate cake, my favorite, isn't lasting. And during the holidays, it gets exacerbated because there's so much gluttony associated with that, if I may use that word. So here's what I want you to do. 5 minutes a day, the J is just sit and feel. Pick one day, ideally a weekend when you're not so rushed. Find a spot, ideally in nature, okay? If it's cold and snowing where you are, I get it, you can't go sit outside, but pick a spot where you have a view, or maybe a painting, or maybe something online that you can look at. Close your eyes, take the 3 deep diaphragmatic breaths, just like we did when we started this session, and then feel in to that negative emotion. Oftentimes, what I find and what most of my clients find is some version of fear. Okay. Be brave. Okay. It's just you and your world. In that moment, you don't need that extra drink. You don't need that extra cookie. You don't need to go shopping. Fight the urge, or maybe make peace with the urge, frankly, of leaving and going and doing something so you're in motion so you can avoid this activity. Okay. Truly do that for yourself, because I promise you at the end of that 5 minutes, you're going to feel like a rock star. You're going to be so proud of what you accomplished. 5 minutes, that's all. So you're sitting there and you feel the fear and you're like, oh, I hate Katy. It's okay. I'll take that. Just sit there with it. Feel the emotion. Acknowledge it, whatever that means for you. For me, that just means going, oh, geez, here it is again. Fear. Where does this fear keep coming from, Katy? All I'm asking you to do right now is just to feel it. Here's what'll happen if you sit with it, even for 60 seconds, you guys, out of that 5 minutes. It will start to pass. I promise you. That fear will leave, because it's just an energy that's in motion. It wants to leave, but when you keep pushing against it, the fear rears its ugly head more, right? It's resisting because it doesn't want to go away unless you welcome it, and then it naturally goes away. So get the data, extract the data from that fear. Just sit with it, okay? That's step one. Just sit and feel it, okay? The longer you sit with it, the more you'll notice that negative emotion just subsiding. And here's what's happening then. Now you're in control. Now you're empowered. And now you're building that muscle for success regularly. Okay? So that's the first minute, minute and a half. Second step goes with the word perception in that definition of loneliness we just reviewed. So the O in joy, Joy, the acronym, is to open up. Okay. And that means changing your perceptions by opening up and seeing what other perceptions are out there. So the key to allowing your emotions to pass with grace, so you can stay focused and congruent in an action, is to realize your actually choosing a particular perception that's inducing lack for you in that moment. Remember, the definition of loneliness was that it's a perceived gap between what you have and what you want. So you're inducing that gap with that negative emotion, right? To me, knowing this is so empowering, you guys, because I now know that I get to choose again. Just because I'm perceiving this gap and this lack doesn't mean I have to go with it. I am a sovereign being and I have the right to choose again. Okay. Redecide. A lot of times, especially for women in society, it's like you've heard the phrase, oh, she keeps changing her mind. Or maybe you've heard it with respect to men. As a female, I keep hearing it with respect to women. Oh, she's always changing her mind. That's allowed. I once had someone say, it's about redeciding. Okay. So you can choose again, choose an alternate perception. So open up, choose a different perception. Here's an example. Perhaps you're going through December or even January and feeling lonely because you're comparing yourself to somebody else in your life. Maybe it's a sibling, maybe it's a colleague, maybe it's someone you went to school with, and they look like they have it all figured out. They have the car, they have the wife, they have the children, they have the job, the title, the status, the money, or so you think. That's creating a big gap between what you have and what they have based on your perception. And then that gap is causing you to feel more and more lonely. So maybe you can then sit and deliberately choose again and think, I am not in this person's world daily. I don't know what's going on in their life. So I have an opportunity to feel empowered by not guessing how they're feeling. Because you know how this is, you guys. You scroll and you scroll, you do the doom scroll, and you see, oh, wow, look at this great life people have on Instagram and Facebook and I don't know, YouTube, wherever else. It's not always the truth. Rarely is it the truth. We all have our bad moments. That's why I'm always so honest and I say, hey, I'm dealing with this. I've dealt with it. This ain't perfect. It's good enough, which is why that is, in fact, the subtitle to my book. Owning your good enough, right? Means finding it for yourself and narrowing that gap between what you perceive as others having and you not having. This lack, the window can be very narrow. Okay, truly. All right. So that's the second minute or 2 minutes. I just want you to sit and have that perception of that lack and narrow that gap between what you others have and what you don't have. Narrow it because you get to choose again, redecide, and shift and pick a different perception. Third step. So we covered J, which is just sit and feel. O, be open to another perception. And now the Y. I feel like I'm doing YMCA. The Y, enjoy, the acronym JOY. Okay. The Y is saying yes to connection. Okay. So remember, the definition was, let me read it again. Loneliness is an emotional state resulting from a perceived gap between one's desire and actual social connections. So connection, remember, was the feeling of being seen, understood, heard, and valued. So connection happens when we have relationships that are truly meaningful to us as individuals, right? In my book, as I say, when we're feeling lonely, we're craving connection. And the biggest connection we feel we're craving, we don't even know it. We think it's always just something external to make us feel better. That guy, that date, that new job, others are going to connect to us and make us feel better. The biggest connection point that we're missing is the connection to ourselves. Okay. Truly. So that's where I want you to pick up on this concept of emotional resonance. As I say in my book, I'm just going to quote it. When you elicit, master, and activate your emotional resonance, connecting with anyone is easier, more natural, and effective. You just show up and people are attracted to you. What That means, though, choose connection. Step 3, the why in the 5-minute raise your resonance process is connecting to yourself first. Think about it, you guys. I can't show up and emotionally resonate with anybody out there unless this vessel, this channel, is resonating optimally. And optimally is a moment by moment thing. It's not perfect. Don't even bring up the P word unless you're going to really acknowledge that whatever it is in this moment is just perfect and good, right? So this vessel, you have to resonate with yourself first. And that's why I spend so much time in the book going over the who are you? What are you about? What are your natural talents and strengths? What do you want? What are your 5 adjectives? What's your story? And getting this vessel primed for resonance with yourself so that you can then show up in the world and resonate with others and choose to say yes, the Y and JOI, to connection. So try this, and this is where today is so poignant. National Mutt Day, right? Connect to giving, okay? Give to a charity, to an organization, to a cause. Thanksgiving, everyone wants to feed the homeless, but what about if we did something like that January through October and not just in November? I remember, and I have this full story in my book, when I was recovering from breast cancer, I'd had a mastectomy. It was April of 2022. And I was laying there like, woe is me, right? And a little voice in my head, my intuition, my gut instinct, whatever you want to call it, my divine, my higher power, said to me, Katy, get up and go form your nonprofit instead of feeling bad for yourself. Focus on the external, focus on giving, and you will heal faster. I remember, you guys, I was arguing with my internal gut. I'm like, what? I'm laying here healing. You want me to go start a 501c3? Yeah, that's exactly what my guidance was telling me to do. And that was extremely powerful. So we started Josie's Home, which is our nonprofit, plug for my nonprofit, devoted to old dogs, foster kids that have aged out of the system, are 18 and above, so they're old, and senior citizens. The one thing they have in common is age, and society doesn't want things that have aged. And so my husband and I started Josie's Home as I was recovering from breast cancer, and it truly put my focus into something so positive and took it outside of myself, and I felt so connected, you guys. So on Giving Tuesday, and National Mutt Day, if you so feel called, $5, $1, or maybe you just show up and, the proverbial help an elderly person across the street, whatever you're called to in the spirit of giving. Okay, it's not about money. It truly isn't. It's about putting your focus on something external to you because you're not lacking anything. Okay. So that's the connection aspect. Try that in your 5 minutes a day. And then the other way to connect truly is to sit and think about how could you connect to another being outside of you with what you are and who you're about, and share who you are and what you're about. Okay. That's how these connection points work. So whether you give to a charity or give to yourself, the connection becomes feeling empowered because it's about unconditional love and feeling it for yourself and then being able to share it. So the biggest phrase that fuels relationships is the following. This is the only thing you get out of this. Listen up. Really important. I appreciate you. Okay. That truly builds affinity and connection, fuels relationships. Most often, what you hear though is people going, I appreciate you doing that, or I appreciate it, or I appreciate that. That doesn't fuel that true connection. Okay. So, fueling relationships is about gratitude and an appreciation for life and acknowledging that we are good receivers, savoring. And that can be a mood, an emotion, or anything else that you can have gratitude around. So, step 3 is to choose connection. and build up your resonance so that you're more attractive externally. And I don't mean visually, I mean from a vibe perspective. The Beach Boys said it really well, right? Good vibrations. It's really the true case of it. How can you raise your vibe? And connecting, choosing connection, whether that's donating to charity or getting a pet. Pets are the most beautiful way here on National Mutt Day to connect and feel that connection, because pets truly have unconditional love and they really live in the present moment, and you can feel that high vibration. They emotionally resonate. Okay, you're not going to feel that unless you're open to receiving that vibration from that animal, that good feeling from that animal. So that is the why. Okay, so let me recap it. JOY, the acronym JOY, 5 minutes a day based on the definition of loneliness that we're curing for, or that we're just really making peace with, an emotional state resulting from a perceived gap between one's desired and one's actual social connections. So the J is you're just going to just sit and feel whatever the negative emotion is tied to loneliness. Don't push it away. Let it be there, okay? Let it go away on its own. Get the data, extract the data so you can use it, okay? The O then is open up. What's another perception that you could have? What's another way of you can look at your life differently? And the Y is say yes to connections. The most important connection is to yourself. Know thyself. Don't be afraid of who is here. The further you run from yourself, the worse it gets. I rarely make doomsday statements like that, but that is really what I want you to get. If I sound dramatic, I want you to really feel that. Don't run. You're a great person. You matter. Don't run from it. And then also connecting to others. Pets. National Mutt Day. Go out there and adopt the mutt. The best animals in the world are mutts. Yes, I am biased. You don't need to go to a kennel and buy a designer dog. There's lots of animals at the shelter that are ready to give you the love that you want and get it back from you. And get connection also by giving. Today's Giving Tuesday. You can give to Josie's Home. We would love your donation money if you want to give it to us. Yeah, there's a plug for Josie's Home and the book. I am shameless about it. But you can get that connection through pets and through giving. Okay, so JOY, just sit with it, feel it, open up to another perception. What's another possibility? How can you look at it differently to be empowered? And then say yes to those connections, connecting with yourself and connecting externally through an animal, a pet, fabulous way to connect, and through giving your time, your attention, your love, your money. Okay. Money alone often feels hollow. I will have to acknowledge that. But it's a place to start. Okay, so JOY, 5 minutes a day. I guarantee you try this, you're going to raise your emotional resonance. You're going to make peace with loneliness, because you're going to find it comes and it goes. And after a while, you're not going to feel that negative emotion associated with feeling lonely at all, because you've chosen a different route, because you're going to start to recognize, hey, I'm worth it. I matter. I'm good enough. I don't have to choose to feel this way. I can choose differently. Okay, so that's the JOY. Now, here's the deal. I promised you a quiz. Celebrities feel this way. People that are famous, yes, that have a world full of people around them, often feel lonely. And I'm so grateful to the celebrities that have come out and have said they feel lonely, because it's a real thing. So here's your quiz for staying online long enough. And one person's going to win a mini breakthrough session, whoever answers this first. What celebrities have come out and said they have faced this challenge of loneliness? Brad Pitt, Anne Hathaway, Lizzo, Jennifer Lawrence, Selena Gomez, or Justin Bieber. Okay? Which celebrities have come out and said they need that? They felt the loneliness. If you're on live, answer the question. Which celebrities have come out and said they faced this challenge of being lonely publicly? Brad Pitt, Anne Hathaway, Lizzo, Jennifer Lawrence, Selena Gomez, or Justin Bieber? Put your answer in the chat, and one person, the first one to answer correctly, is going to win a mini breakthrough session with me. And while we're waiting, let's bring this home. Again, as I've explained in my latest book, we're lonely because we're really craving connection. This gap between what we have and what we perceive we want isn't real because we're craving connection, okay? And you can use that 3-step process to truly come into acknowledgement with where the gap is for yourself, okay? And if you want, here's the link to donate to Josie's home. Shamelessly, I'm going to put it in the chat for you. And the answer to the quiz is the following. All of those celebrities have come out and said they have felt lonely. From Brad Pitt all the way to Selena Gomez to Justin Bieber. Humans are humans, whether they're famous or not. Do you think just because they have fame, they have it better than the rest of us? Not necessarily. It's whatever you perceive as that gap, that lack between what others have and what you have. You get to choose how to narrow that gap in 5 minutes a day to raise your emotional resonance and to really shift your world and have exactly the life that you want. So I'm going to leave you with this thought. The holidays are what you make of them. Loneliness is what you make of it. Raising your vibe and doing something to stay in motion and positive around all this is going to make a huge difference in your life. And then you get to make a huge difference in the life of others. If you want more on this, I have lots of free content out there. The latest the latest podcast episode is just dropped. It is about finding your voice and speaking up. There's the link in the chat box for you. And let's see, should have known, given that list was very broad, different types of people. Yeah, thanks for that comment there, Ariana. Yes, indeed. The list is very broad because all of those people, I guess I could have said, is it all of the above or none of the above? But the point was, no one is immune from this. You may think grass is greener. It's not necessarily. It's about how you show up and how you choose to make the best of what you've got, because no one else is in charge of us. We're in charge of us. This is sovereign. I am empowered, and so are you, no matter what your circumstances. I'm moved to leave you with the quote that Nelson Mandela said, is attributed to him anyway, when he was in prison. After he got out, I don't know how many years was Nelson Mandela in prison, a very long time, right? 20 some years. He was interviewed and somebody said to him, how did you get through all those days and years in prison when you weren't guilty of anything? Here's what he said. Every day I chose to be there. Every day I chose to be there. It's so empowering, right? The power of choice to be sovereign no matter what's going on around you. So whether it's December or January, whether you're perceiving a huge lack or a small lack, remember, you're in control of this. You matter. You're important. We need you. We need you to show up. You're a channel for blessings. You're safe. You're wanted. And you get to choose every moment what you do with it. So whether you pick up the book and read it, do something good for yourself, listen to it on audio, because it's now available on Audible, Spotify, wherever you listen to content. Do something for yourself during this holiday season and otherwise, because you're worth it. I got your back if you want my support. There's lots of free content I have out there. And until the next time, I'll see you on the next live, and have a beautiful December or whenever you're watching this. Take care.